Hello, and welcome to another volume in the epic Death Star MOC. And in this episode, we'll be looking at the 2019 comic from the Star Wars Age of Rebellion, Grand Moff Tarkin, which was in the Villain series, and how it introduced two new vignettes for me to add into the Death Star. The comic falls chronologically after Rogue One, because there is reference to when Director Krennic was in charge, and then it occurs before and during A New Hope. And the issue is called Tooth and Claw, and it's all regarding my favorite villain in the Star Wars universe, Grand Moff Tarkin. And what we see in the comic is there's a test firing, or practice of test firing, the Death Star. So here you see the hallway where it leads into the docking bay, and inside the command room they're preparing to fire the Death Star. This is a simple test exercise, essentially, because what they're really doing is watching the response times of all of the different Navy troopers. Are they reacting as fast? When they're told to fire, do they fire? And after that, Tarkin reviews the results. What Tarkin does is he calls in all the Death Star gunners and officers, and he has them line up, and he's calling them out regarding the firing times and how important of a job they have and how they have to respond immediately. He calls out one particular gunner who he asks about having a scar, and he has a flashback about life on his home planet of Eridu, and it kind of just shows just how what would be the word with kid-friendly word is basically just how evil and ruthless Tarkin is towards his goals. The funny part, of course, is knowing that the actor who played Tarkin, that's Peter Cushing, he wore slippers during the whole filming of the movies. This was because the leather boots that were designed for the Imperial officers, they were too tight for him, and he asked George Lucas to wear something else. George Lucas, identifying that Peter Cushing is a well-known actor, certainly at that time, took a step back and said, sure, no problem, and they filmed him from the waist up. So then from there, they end up showing in the comic book the scene where Princess Leia is there and Darth Vader is holding her as Tarkin kind of talks to her, and then they end up destroying Alderaan. So that occurs in the comic book. And then there's the reactions of the gunners, but as you all know, they do blow up Alderaan. So then what happens after that is Tarkin says, please bring me all the gunners who had a red mark on their tracking sheet. Because what happened was Tarkin wanted to see that there was no hesitation by gunners. And that when they hesitate, that's not following orders. So what he ends up doing is he lectures these gunners about how they should have quit when they had a chance, and then he shoots them out the airlock. Which, it just shows, again, the ruthlessness of Tarkin. But it also kind of takes into the expanded universe story. There was, and I've read it before, and I can't seem to find it to verify it, but there was comment that a gunner felt really bad about the destruction of Alderaan, hesitated when they lined up the Yavin 4 moon, and that gave, again, Luke Skywalker just that little extra time to shoot that the proton torpedo down and blow up the Death Star. But this kind of corrects that, saying anyone who hesitated, they got set at the airlock by Tarkin. So another new part of the Death Star that was seen because of the comic was Tarkin's office. At the end of the comic, he is in his office and he kind of has a moment to himself. So it presented an opportunity to show some officers' quarters using canon material. The challenge, though, was the comic book came out in 2019, and the Death Star was well on its way to being completed. So I had to kind of find a spot where I had some space that I could put it in there, and it didn't need to be very big because it is supposed to be someone's small room. What it does, though, is creates a challenge because it's actually only 5 bricks high. Basically, the maximum size or the minimum size I've been trying to do with all of the cutouts that I've been creating was about 8 to 9 bricks high. The reason why I'd want it that big is because so my hand can fit in. So this room does present a challenge because it's hard for me to get my hand in, and maybe Little Taco could do a better job of posing the characters. But there you have it. There's his office. We have a viewport so we can look out into outer space, a desk, and some memorabilia. So that was something that was very excited, to add in new parts of the Death Star. And here is the takeaway videos. We have the hallway, which leads to the command room. So we have the different officers there. We've seen that many times. So again, that was a central room, and one of the last actual rooms that was built into the Death Star, which is funny because it tends to be the one that I focused on the most. And as always, you'd scan out this way, and then you'd get towards where there is the command. Now I've had to turn the Death Star because, as I mentioned, the comic book created different scenes. So there is the docking bay. So we don't have anything on the docking bay. So this really gives you a chance to see just how big it is. And if I can get the iPad in there, which you can, of course, because it's big enough. We have all the different components that you would see. Different designs, many different pipes and things like that to give it that kind of feel. But when you're watching the movie, you do see that they have this kind of like pattern. So I wanted to replicate that in any event. So there's the docking bay. And right from there, actually, if I were just going back there, is the hallway, which leads to... This was just a simple side hallway because some of the parts of the Death Star needed to fill it in, and I needed space for stormtroopers to move and eventually for the rebels to be chased. But that is where we have the air chamber. So there you see the disgruntled gunner who wasn't happy about blowing up his home planet. And then when you come over here, as I've done traditionally, all items that are black have functionality. So when you turn it, it just turns this blue. So you have that trans blue, which kind of looks like the airlock force field. There's white up here, clear up there. I couldn't find the smaller trans blue. So it also kind of breaks it up so it's not uniform, and then you just simply scroll that back. It just takes a second to click, and there you have the airlock. It allows for, when I was really kind of conceptually putting this together, these exits there will eventually be shown the blast door, and this one, just kind of when you pan out, it gives different spots. Because really the concept was to have as much possible showing of the Death Star, but also all the different rooms. So there's a good pan out version of that. On the top you can see where eventually the dogfighting happens. And as you can see, it's on a table. So I end up having to only really see 3 sides at once. So then you come this way, and this was the other new room that was built because of what was shown in the comic book. And there's Tarkin's office. So there he is, just sitting there looking at the window. That's kind of my representation of outer space from there, so we can look out there. Just different things. Coffee cup obviously wasn't in the comic book, but it's funnier. There's the tooth from one of the creatures he fought. This was added in just because I had 2 of those TIE fighters, and I had that really awesome clear trans blue Death Star piece. So I kind of put it in there, so this is a bit of my own creation. But as you can see, it's only 5 bricks high in total. Makes a bit of a tight squeeze, so I'd probably have to ask Little Taco to go in there and do things with Tarkin. But there it is. It was also a challenge of finding space, because this is really meant, as you can see there, because this is actually the first video that's really showing you some of this side. You can see the main dish. I mean, it's iconic, so it has to be there, as well as a lot of just space. Now, typically I try to fill that, but so now you kind of understand the reasoning, because when you come into here, we needed a solid wall. So that solid wall translates to a more of an exterior for the Death Star. So this would be kind of that look, and I'm pretty much as far back as I can. But there you have it. That is the Death Star and all the different rooms that were shown in today's episode. And here is the Death Star all lit up. No, that's not my Lego MOC. That is my Death Star wall light. But over here in the Lego room, lights are all turned off, and the interior lights of the Death Star are on. And you see one of our main rooms from this episode. It is Tarkin's office. And it does really well. There's only a singular light up there, so those lights are the panel lights from brick stuff. So there's one light source, and because of the smaller size of this vignette, it's a bit of a tighter scene. It really does a great job with the lighting. And the other parts we saw in this episode, again, we always see the docking bay, so that's kind of a standard one. There's the hallway. So you have a hallway, and this one, if you look up there, they're spaced out about every 18 or so bricks. So there's really 2 lights in there. Can't quite get the other one in there. And really, just when you kind of look, actually, when you go under there, you see the structure, kind of the interior piece. It is just girders and rainbow-colored bricks up there. Not that detailed. So anyways, so there's that hallway. They're all getting ready for a meeting. And there's the command room. And the other part of the Death Star that was highlighted in this episode was this hallway section. So here it is lit up. It has a single light source in each of these sections, these cutouts. You'll see that this, when I talked about the sizing, this would be the normal sizing. My hand fits into it nicely. I can move things around, and that's right over there. You can see it. It's harder in the dark, though. Of course, that is 9 bricks high. So that is it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Look forward to the next episode, which we're going to be starting to show scenes from A New Hope. But otherwise, take care and stay safe.